we'll go ahead and get started. So good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I'm so glad you're with us. My name is Wyatt Bruton. I'm the Associate Director of Admissions for Schwartzman Scholars. And we're delighted that you've joined us today for our featured Spotlight Student Life Roundtable. We have an incredible group of Schwartzman Scholars lined up today to share with you about their experience. And I'm so happy to be here with this incredible group. And I'm also so thrilled to be here with my colleague, Melanie, and I'll turn it over to her, our Associate Dean of Student Life at Schwartzman College.
Thank you so much, Wyatt. And it's my pleasure to be here with you today with some of our students. I have the privilege and good fortune to be able to live in the college in Beijing with all of these fine people. So I get to know all of the students of each class very well. And right now we're all dialing in from all over the world. I'm in British Columbia. And I will get each of our panelists today to briefly introduce themselves, including where they are right now and where they're from. And we will start with Emily.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Melanie, and thank you, Wyatt, for having me today. It's an honor to be with you. My name is Emily Venturi. I'm a scholar in the current class from Italy, although I'm calling in today from Amsterdam. And before the program, I was working at the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees office in Geneva on providing technical support to our country offices on long-term planning, programming and funding for refugee crises that were protracted in nature.
Great, thanks, Emily. Next up, we have Joe, who looks like he's dialing in from the library of Schwartzman College. Over to you, Joe.
Okay, thank you, Melanie. Thank you, Walt. It's really a pleasure to meet you all. I am Joe, and I'm now in Shanghai, China. And before the program, I was also studying in Tsinghua University. I was a master's student in the School of Public Policy and Management. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And Ankita.
Okay, hi everyone. It's great to be with you, and thanks Melanie and Wyatt for organizing. My name's Ankita Satpathy, and I am from New Jersey in the United States, and that's where I'm dialing in from right now. And prior to starting in the current cohort at Schwartzman College, I was completing my undergraduate degree at the University of Virginia.
All right, thank you. And finally, Tiago.
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to meet you all. Thanks, Melanie and Wyatt, for the opportunity. I'm Tiago Xangui from Brazil. Before coming to the program, I graduated in chemical engineering 6 years ago, and then I worked in management consulting for 4 years. And then I had some experience in developing both in Africa and Southeast Asia, and now participating of the 4th cohort of Schwartzman Scholars. Nice to meet you all.
Great. Well, thank you all for taking the time to be with us today. As Wyatt mentioned, today's webinar is really focusing on the student life aspects of the program. What is it like to be a student in the program? So we've got each of our panelists who will share a little bit about a number of the topics related to that. And then we've left lots of time for questions that you may have. So we're going to start off with Ankita talking a little bit about what it's like to live in the college.
Okay, great. So as Melanie said, I'll talk a little bit about living in Schwartzman College itself. So first point to just put out there is the facilities themselves are beautiful. You should have no concerns at all about being safe, comfortable, because the building itself is great. I won't go on too much about that. If you're curious, there's lots of pictures and details on our website. But the main point that I want to emphasize is how unique and special the experience of living in a residential college is. So if you don't know, Schwartzman College is a residential college, meaning that in addition to your dorm rooms being there, the dining hall, the classrooms, the auditorium where you'll hear guest speakers, the gym, the study rooms, it's all under one roof. So that really creates the ability for you to form a close bond very quickly with the other scholars, even though there's 100 plus, maybe 150 plus your year, who knows, living there. The fact that you are spending so much time together in that concentrated environment is, for me, what makes it such a special experience to actually live there. And I think that bond extends to faculty as well. Each module, certain visiting faculty will be living in the college and taking their meals alongside with you. You might run into them in the laundry room. So it really allows you to develop a personal connection and an informal relationship, as well as the one that you will already develop in the classroom. The other point I think to mention here is that each member of the college community, which extends far beyond just the scholars and the professors, really go out of their way to make you feel at home while simultaneously allowing you to learn about China and the culture that you've come to be immersed in. And I think this is sometimes a delicate balance to strike, but they do it extremely well. So for example, growing up in the US, I was accustomed to celebrating Thanksgiving, Christmas, and the dining hall staff would go out of their way to make those days special. But then also on the winter solstice in China, they shared the traditions and meals that are unique to that particular day. So that's a balance that's done really well, and part of what makes living in the college really unique.
Great, thank you so much, Ankita. I imagine we'll have lots of questions to follow up during our Q&A for you. And now, Schwartzman College and Schwartzman Scholars Program is one of the graduate schools within Tsinghua University, which is where the master's degree is granted from. So to talk a little bit about Tsinghua University and what it's like to be a part of that large campus, we will turn it over to Joe.
Okay, thank you, Melanie. So now I will give a brief introduction of the Tsinghua University, since I study in the campus for 7 years. So I am very familiar with the whole campus. And I should say that Tsinghua University is the best university in China. Although some people maybe say Peking University is also good, but from my point of view, I think it is the best. Yeah. So first, the first word that may come into your mind would be large. So Tsinghua University is very, very huge. So I just give you some numbers so that you can have a concept of its size. It is 450 hectares. So the size of it is equal to 6 times the size of Harvard, and also 52 times the size of Columbia University. And also it can be equal to 9 Columbia plus 2 UC Berkeley plus 1 Stanford and 1 Yale. So it is very, very big. And also it is the most beautiful campus in China and around the world. So for 4 different seasons, you can experience totally different scenery within the campus. So now it's spring in China, and you can see many flowers, they just blossom in the campus. It's really beautiful. And like in winter, it snows, and also the lake may become freezing, and you can also skate on the lake in the campus. It's really a nice experience living in such a big campus. And also talking about Tsinghua University, since it's the best university in China, and so it has a very strong alumni network in China. So I just named some of the figures who are alumni graduating from Tsinghua University, such as the President Xi Jinping, now is the President of the People's Republic of China, and also the former President of the People's Republic of China, President Hu Jintao. They are all alumni from Tsinghua University. And also, like in scientific field, we have Yang Zhenning, a Nobel Prize winner for physics, also graduating from Tsinghua University. And talking about the life living in the campus, it's really nice. So although in our Schwartzman College, we have a dining hall, which is more like Western oriented, those kind of flavored foods, but many of our classmates would prefer also to dine out in the canteens in Tsinghua, simply because there are over 17 canteens in the whole campus. I think it would take a long time for you to experience every canteen in the whole semester. And also it is one of our favorite things to do in the Schwartzman College, to dine out with our friends in one of the canteens in Tsinghua. And besides that, we also have various activities in Tsinghua. We have over 200 clubs and also student organizations in Tsinghua. And no matter what kind of talent or what kind of interest you have, you can always find an organization where you can show your talent and also find very close friends that you can share the same interest in the future. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. Even I learned some new things about Tsinghua from that. So again, you are an expert, having spent more time there than any of the rest of us on this call. Thank you, Joe. Next up, one of the mantras at Tsinghua is no sports, no Tsinghua. We're going to turn it over to Tiago to talk a little bit about the sports and athletics culture in the college and on the campus.
Great. Yeah, so I was chosen to talk about sports because I'm really passionate about it. And I'm gonna divide this in 3 parts, starting from the Schwartzman College. Most of you probably don't know, but Melanie here besides me, she is a professional and official CrossFit coach, also yoga trainer and CrossFit trainer, yoga coach and professor and teacher. And she also gives us mindfulness classes. So at least 3-4 times a week, we have CrossFit classes with her, we have yoga classes, we have mindfulness meditation periods every single day. So we have a lot of opportunities to get into sports inside the college. Everything, of course, free of any costs. We also have a great gym inside the college, so you can just get the elevator, go 4 or 5 floors down, and then you're there at our gym that's all equipped. And doesn't matter what time you go there, even if you go at 1, 2 a.m., there's gonna be some scholar there working out. And it's really good to also get together with your friends and hang out with everyone. Besides this, we also have scholars that are very talented, they have their skills, and they like to share this with the community. So we have colleagues that were, we had classmates that were teaching each other, for example, salsa or kickboxing or just boxing or dances, hip hop. So I was just getting to things that I had never done before. So it's really amazing how we can do this as a community. The second part is about Tsinghua. So as Melanie said, Tsinghua has a very famous saying that says that without sports is not Tsinghua. So this is because pretty much every single week at Tsinghua, you're gonna have any kind of sports competition. So it goes from normal ones that we would play anywhere of football or basketball until things more Chinese oriented like ping pong and badminton, and to things like chess, taekwondo, and so on. So it's really amazing. They also, in the beginning of the year, they give a big athletics competition that all the scholars get together, and you need to have the biggest number of scholars you can get together. So we were like 100 of us running together in a stadium. So that was super amazing, super good to bond with our fellow scholars. Yes, and then the third part of that all is the opportunities that China gives you and Beijing when you want to get engaged in sports. So foreigners have the advantage that if you want to run a marathon, they normally sponsor all the trip to you. So we had some amazing scholars that ran like marathons and even like those ultra Ironman of more than 180 kilometers that people just go with everything sponsored so they can also participate in these competitions, which is quite impressive. And we also have many opportunities to just go, for example, to the Great Wall and hike for a weekend, or we can even sleep in the Great Wall under a camp doing with your tents. The college provides tents for that. So it's quite amazing waking up by the Great Wall, seeing the sunrise. So it's quite amazing. Yeah, and I guess that's pretty much it for sports. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Tiago, for that. Although I will point out that when you're going down to the gym, you should be taking the stairs instead of the elevator. So we've talked about the college. It's situated within Tsinghua, and Tsinghua is situated within Beijing. So we're going to turn it over next to Emily to talk a little bit about living in Beijing, and then also about the opportunities to explore China.
Thank you very much, Melanie. So Beijing, it's really a fantastic city to live in. It's at the heart of Chinese politics and culture, and it's really an integral part of the Schwartzman Scholars experience. There are various ways for scholars to explore Beijing. And firstly, I would underline that the college staff and university programs do a fantastic job in helping you explore the city. For example, I participated in college organized cultural excursions to the Forbidden City and to the Summer Palace, which were absolutely incredible. The college careers team also organizes visits within the city. And so, for example, I participated in a visit to a top law firm in the city's financial district, which was also an opportunity to see a different side of how things work in the city. There are many opportunities through the college and the university that can introduce you to Beijing and allow you to practice your Chinese language skills, especially if you are new to China and you're international like I was. And so it's very helpful to have this introduction to the city. Another way that scholars usually engage with Beijing is through involvement with local organizations that can really give you a different perspective on the reality of Beijing and also introduce you to different people outside of the university bubble. So for example, I participated in a volunteer project with the Dandelion Middle School in Beijing, which is a middle school that's dedicated to providing education to children in Beijing who come from migrant worker families. Because of China's Hukou household registration system, many of these children cannot access public education facilities in Beijing, and the Dandelion School is one of their only opportunities to access education. Schwartzman Scholars has an ongoing partnership with the school, and many students volunteer as teachers or as mentors, and it's a really wonderful way to give back to the community and also work with your fellow scholars as well. Working with the Dandelion School was one of my favorite things to do in Beijing. It got me out of the university campus and really got me engaged with the local Beijing community, and started to give me an understanding and introduce me to lived realities and experience that fill this really diverse city. Moving on to what it's like to explore China outside of Beijing, as Melanie mentioned, that's another real core part of the Schwartzman Scholars experience that I'm very grateful for. One opportunity that I would like to highlight is the college's Deep Dive program. So Deep Dive, it's an experiential learning course that Schwartzman Scholars offers each November in partnership with Tsinghua University. So scholars are able to travel in groups with faculty to a different area of China for 1 week in November to study a particular topic in depth, meet with political, business, and social leaders. So for example, this year, Deep Dive trips went to Shenzhen, to Chengdu, to Baoji, Xi'an, Xiamen, and Yunnan. I participated in the Deep Dive course that was called Poverty Alleviation and Rural Revitalization in Yunnan province. So I traveled with 12 fellow scholars and 2 faculty members to Yunnan province, which is in southern China, and it's on the border with Myanmar. We took 2 planes, and then we rode a bus for another 4 hours to make it all the way to Bandong village in Linsang County. In Bandong, we lived with a homestay, and so we lived with local families for a week. We joined in to village activities, and we studied the practical implementation of the Chinese government's poverty alleviation campaign. So the Chinese government has pledged to eliminate extreme poverty in China by the end of 2020 and has rolled out massive programming. The Deep Dive experience was really unique for us to be able to see how government programs were being implemented on the ground in southern China. We were able to visit 3 different villages at different stages in the poverty alleviation program. We met with local mayors, businessmen, and inhabitants. I would say that thanks to our local guide, the Deep Dive was really a once-in-a-lifetime experience for me, especially as someone who's interested in international development. The scholar community was also a fantastic part of the experience. We all came from different countries, different professional backgrounds, and had the opportunity to travel together with Schwartzman College faculty and really spend time studying rural development in China and getting to know each other. So I will pass it back to Melanie, and I hope that gave you a bit of an idea of the opportunities that you have to explore Greater China outside of Beijing as well.
Great, thank you so much, Emily. I'm hoping to join that particular deep dive at some point in the future. I heard such great things about it. Let's see, so often there's questions about participating in the program if you don't speak Chinese or if you don't speak Chinese very well. So we've got Tiago is going to talk a little bit about learning Chinese within the program.
Great. So coming from somebody, I got accepted at Schwartzman program without speaking any Chinese. So from December 2018, I didn't know any Chinese. And then in January 19, in the year that I was going to start at the Schwartzman College, I started learning. So I started getting classes here in Brazil and doing 1 or 2 hours per week with a professor, studying by myself. And I could progress a little bit, my language skills, but not that much. Before getting to the college, still Schwartzman Scholars provides you access to online platforms that are great for you to learn. So they have Chinese Pod, they have LingoBuzz that helps you give sort of like a foundation for you to already get to China knowing some of it. And then I arrived at China and I was like, okay, everything that I learned in the past 6 months were for nothing because I can't understand anything, I can't speak a thing. But then just from the first week, we already start having all our Chinese classes with amazing teachers that the college provides to us. So in the first module of Schwartzman, it's mandatory. So everybody, except for the Chinese students who have English classes, everybody we have Chinese classes. So they have 8 different levels, depending how fluent you are, or the level 1 being, I've never spoke any of it. Level 8 being people from Singapore, people that grew up speaking Chinese, but never had it in an academic context, for example. And these classes are really good. Besides having these classes pretty much 1 hour every single day of the week, weekdays, we also have access to tutors that can help us during the week if you want to just practice the language. You can get tandem partners outside of the college. So finding Chinese students that want to practice their English or maybe their Spanish. So you just meet this person and maybe practice 1 hour just speaking Chinese, 1 hour just speaking English, and then you go correcting each other. And that's a really helpful way to learn the language. Also within the college, all the staff, the Chinese people that work inside there, the faculty that speak Chinese, they're always willing to practice with you, and they get super happy when you get there speaking some sort of Chinese, and that's really cool. Moreover, we have during our vacation, so we have 5 weeks break in the middle of the program. That's when the Chinese New Year's happen. The college also sponsors extra Chinese classes if you want. So I went to do an intensive Chinese course in the south of China in a region called Guangxi, which is beautiful. So I spent there 2 weeks having classes 6 hours every single day, which helps you a lot into improving your skills. And that was also really, really great. Now I've improved a lot. I keep having classes in the distance. I got a good improvement. So now recently I took like a mock test and I got quite a good result. I passed like the HSK 4, which is normally what some companies require, which is what some companies require to hire you. So if I wanted to apply to one of these companies, I could have, starting from like a 0 level just a year and a half before. So it's quite good. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Congratulations, Tiago.
Thank you.
Hard work and just 1 year. That's amazing. Let's see, and we'll go back to Joe to talk a little bit about the mentor program, but the people you get access to as part of the Schwartzman Scholars Program.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Melanie. I think the mentor program is just really amazing because you get to know a lot of very famous big figures who only maybe before appeared in your textbook or only they showed on TV, but now you can have a very close connection with those mentors. And also we have a lot of guest speakers every week who are invited to the college and also give you a speech, and also you can have very close connection with them. So when talking about those mentors, it's not just like they give a speech and then you ask questions, but more you can have a very close connection with them. For example, some of them may live in the college, or you can just have a cup of coffee with them in the dining hall, or you can play any sports like table tennis with them, or you can go to the supermarket with them. And through those kind of very close connection, you can have a lot of knowledge about the industry that you are interested in. So just name some of the big figures. We just had some lecture. For example, several days ago, we had Rice, the 66th Secretary of the State of the United States, who gave us a speech. And also, in the academic field, we have Joseph Nye from Harvard University, who talk about the China-U.S. relationship, which really bring us a lot of insight into this very important relationship in this era. And also for me, we have a course which was taught by the former UN Undersecretary General, and she gave us a lot of experience when she had a peacekeeping mission in African countries. And also she shared with us some of the techniques or some of the things you should pay attention to when working in the United Nations. So these kind of tips and also those kind of close connection with those so-called big figures really help you a lot to help you prepare for your future career, as well as provide you with a lot of guidance and lifelong support in the future. Yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you so much. And finally, we have Ankita talking a little bit more about the various types of events at the college, or that the students from the college are involved in.
Yeah, absolutely. So Joe led into it really well, because a couple of the events that stand out most in my mind were when Joseph Nye came to speak at the college. For those who might not be familiar, he's a scholar in international relations, quite a famous one. And we had another great one, Graham Allison, also a big figure in international relations, US-China relations, that came to speak at the college. And so those two stand out in my mind because that's what I studied and what I happened to be most interested in. But lots of my other friends that were interested in other sectors, business, business, public policy, tech, I can't name them all, economics, there's so many, had similar experiences where they remember really standout figures in their field coming to speak with them. And then of course, you have the opportunity to engage more personally than you would if you just came across them in some other forum. So those are some of the really cool points about college organized events, but they also allow scholars to self-organize events based on whatever the interest of that particular cohort is. So for example, I was on the team that helped organize the women's conference this year, but there's lots and lots of different teams, and these change year to year as well. I think that's part of the beauty of being both in a one-year program and also in a relatively young program, is you actually personally have a lot of latitude and autonomy in shaping it. So there were some groups that were brand new this year, a startup institute, and there's also groups, there was also Tech Summit that was brand new this year, and there's also groups that continue every single year. So one really fun event in particular that's student run every year is Steve's Briefs, named after Steve Schwartzman, the program founder. And so basically that's kind of like a mini TED Talk that scholars give to other scholars based on a particular interest or expertise that they have in their background. So it really emphasizes not only learning from experts, but learning from your peers and from each other. And it's just a lot of fun. So it was one of my favorite things to attend this year and learn so much from others in the cohort.
Great, wonderful. Well, thank you all for giving that overview on various aspects of student life. Wyatt may have some questions for us now that have come in from our viewers.
Absolutely. Thanks, Melanie, and thanks everyone for those awesome insights. And it's exciting. It looks like we have about 20 plus countries represented in our webinar today with our attendees. So we have lots of great questions coming in. If you think of a question over the course of the next 25 minutes or so, feel free to use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. You can type in the question and I will moderate our discussion with our Schwartzman scholars today. And there's a couple of admissions ones I'll just address really quickly at the beginning, just so we're all on the same page. A couple of people asked about the age requirement. So the age is between 18 to 28. So you have to be from 18 and not yet 29 by August 1st of the year that you will enroll at Tsinghua. So for this cohort applying right now, which is the 6th cohort of Schwartzman scholars, which is hard to believe, it will be to start at Schwartzman College in August of 2021. So that's important to keep in mind. And then for the English language requirement, just to clarify that, someone asked if their undergraduate language of instruction was in English. Are they exempt from the English language policy? And that's correct. So if you are in an institution where your language of instruction in undergrad or if your master's is in English for at least 2 years or more, then that fulfills our English language requirement. So with that, I'm going to jump into some student life questions here. And one of them, which I think is the first one I'll ask, which I think is a really great question, is this concept of, we have so many leaders coming from around the world to each cohort, right, from different backgrounds, in your cohort, over 40 countries represented. And the question is, how long does it usually take to form a family from individuals, which I think is a really great way to articulate it. So anyone want to, Ankita, do you want to start us out and then see if anyone else?
Yeah, sure. It's quick. It's quicker than you would think. And that's kind of partly what I was getting at earlier when I said having everything under one roof really facilitates that, because you could imagine maybe how long it's taken you in your past experiences to form a relationship with someone you were a classmate with, right? And then imagine that they're also your sports partner and also who you run into all the time and also who you share a living room with. And so, I mean, the specific answer might vary person to person. For me, I felt comfortable within maybe like a month or two. I mean, part of this varies on your personality as well, right? But I do think the program is very intentionally designed to create close bonds amongst the cohort. And that has been the case in my experience. And the true test of it is that these conversations are continuing now that we're unexpectedly separated. So that has been really wonderful.
Yeah, I think there is also something that Steve Schwartzman said when I was doing the interviews in New York, that he said that he finds it so fascinating that no matter where he goes at the college, he never sees a person alone. There's always people interacting, talking with their friends, their peers. And that's so true, because it doesn't matter what time you go have lunch, there's going to be somebody there to have lunch with you, and you're going to be talking with that person and connecting with them. And it's just like simply 24 hours. It's not just 4 or 6 hours. You're going to have classes during weekdays and that's it. And then maybe on weekends you meet up. No, it's your neighbors on the door, when you go to the gym, when you go to the pub. We also have a pub inside the college. So there are many situations that make you get involved with your peers. And then I think the family is built really, really quickly. I would say a month or even quicker with some people. So it's just really nice.
Awesome, couldn't agree more. Thank you both. Another question, which is a really great one, about how to manage time as a Schwartzman Scholar. You have a 10-month window where you are, every day seems very full of lots of incredible opportunities. So maybe we could talk just a little bit about, a couple of you could share about what's a day in a life, even though each day is very different. What's a typical day in the life of a Schwartzman Scholar student? What could that look like? And how do you approach really maximizing this experience during your time there?
So from my point of view, I think, yeah, the time management is really a very critical issue during the whole semester. I think for me, I think you should first prioritize what is your goal is, like in the future. You're going to work, or you are going to pursue a further degree, or you are going to just go back to your previous job. I think this is really important so that you can better manage your time in the cohort. For me, I think besides the time that everyone is the same, like we go to classes, we have lunch, we have dinner, I think I also have a timetable. I think Melanie knows that very well, that we had a planner that you can write down your daily routine, and from what time to what time, what kind of event you will have. So every day we were packed with a lot of lectures, students, clubs, some discussions, or hanging out with our friends. So it's at first it's really hard for you to make a choice between so many wonderful choices that you can only pick one. But later, when you try to figure out what is your goal in the future, and then you can prioritize, like if you're going to say, for example, you're going to work in the future, then you might pay more attention to those career events. Like we have a lot of big companies coming to the college, and you can attend their events. And also you can have some tutoring related to Korea with our very professional Korea team in that sense. And also you can spend time talking with some experts and also our scholars to share more insights into certain jobs or industries. Yeah, thanks.
I'll also jump here on time management, because I think it's a very good question that a lot of us are always consistently working on throughout our lives. I'll highlight two particular components of the program that help understand this. The first is the student orientation part, which really takes place at the beginning of the year, and something that I particularly enjoyed. So we got nearly 2 full weeks of orientation when we first arrived in China, which was really helpful in order, firstly, if you're an international, to get situated, to get over your jet lag, again, understand how to move around within Tsinghua and Beijing, but it also allows you to really start planning out your year. I remember during orientation, we had a lot of presentations on student clubs, on life at Tsinghua, on academics, on professional development events, and that really helped me, first of all, understand what a potential year in Schwartzman College would look like, and then also set aside some time with my peers throughout some workshops and orientation to really start mapping out priorities. And I think that was a really helpful activity, and one of the benefits of having a longer student orientation at the beginning of the year to then set off right. And the second thing that I would also want to focus on, and Joel kind of mentioned this as well, is really the flexibility that the program allows for you in order to prioritize based on what you're interested in. Everyone is coming into Schwartzman College from different professional backgrounds, different academic backgrounds, and so no one's schedule is going to look the same, which is fantastic. And the program really allows you to prioritize. So if you want to really learn how to speak Chinese well, like Thiago did, there are ample opportunities for you to increase that component of your schedule. A lot of scholars will come to the program midway through their careers and will use the program as an opportunity to either pivot or to explore their career within China and to really advance themselves professionally. And so they might take on an internship, which, for example, would change what their schedule looks like. Or other scholars are really interested in digging deep into Chinese public policy and political science and will really sign up to take extra classes in Tsinghua. So you can see that there are a variety of options for how your schedule would look like, and I would underline that one of my greatest appreciations to the program is the flexibility that it allows for every student to craft their own schedule and experience with so many resources as well.
Well said. Thanks, everyone. Another very practical question related to time management. What kind of activities do Schwartzman Scholars participate in on the weekend? And what's the balance between free time, planned activities, and optional activities?
Sure, I can start us off here. So I think once you get past the 2 weeks of orientation, more or less that concludes your like mandatory activities on the weekends. I mean, there might be one here and there, don't hold me to it, but I think in general your weekends are mostly yours. And that's really exciting because, as Emily said, it allows you to choose what you want to do. So if you want to take, if you're really interested in the academics piece and you want to take far more than the required number of credits and study and be in Tsinghua classes on the weekends, you can. You can also explore Beijing. There's ample travel opportunity, and there's always a strong contingent of the cohort that is planning some weekend trip or the other pretty much every weekend. So tough choices sometimes, but lots of flexibility. So I think in terms of the difference or the balance between planned time, optional activities, and totally free time, there will pretty much always be an optional event or activity going on in the college, sometimes multiple. So there's no shortage of those, and then it's just up to you to choose which of those optional activities make your calendar and which time you choose to leave for socializing or whatever else you want to do.
Yeah, and building on what Ankita said, I think an important thing to think is that you're getting a master's degree at the best university in China. So we can't really expect that, although Schwartzman has a lot of social events, career development events, we can't forget that the academics is really important. And we have a lot of subjects, and sometimes they have hard assignments. We have to write a capstone thesis, which is our graduation requirement. So you have to count that into it. So some weeks you're gonna be very busy finishing assignments, writing your capstone, which is something that we have finally delivered 2 weeks ago. So all of us are feeling very relieved now, but just don't forget that this is a master's program. It's an educational program. Even though you're in China, you live in China, you're experiencing the country, the culture, you can't forget that it's a degree in one of the best universities in the world. So it can't be that easy. And then that is a complication for your time management. So in my particular case, I was out of university for 5-6 years, and coming back to that was quite a shock. But yeah, you go adapting. Your classmates or the other scholars are there to help you. So everybody manages to do so. So you're also gonna make it.
Awesome, well said, thank you. Another attendee asks, we'd love to hear about your objectives when you first arrived at Schwartzman College and how you went about developing and balancing them throughout your experience. So everything from academic study to professional development, Chinese language, etc. Emily, you want to jump in first?
Yes, so one of my primary objectives was learning Chinese and then really delving into Chinese public policy. As I mentioned previously, I was working at the United Nations prior to coming to Schwartzman College, and I really wanted to, I'd never lived in China before, and one of my priorities was really pivoting within my field to looking at it from a perspective in China. So I wasn't necessarily changing careers, but I really wanted to integrate that Chinese component to my work within the United Nations. And there were so many opportunities to do that. My favorite component was I was able to take a course with former Undersecretary General Angela Kane. And that was a fantastic way to bring together my previous professional experience and really localize that experience within China as well. I also focused on studying Chinese language, and so took advantage of all the extra mentoring opportunities that we had within the college. And then I also prioritized really getting out of Beijing and traveling as much as I could during our breaks to practice my Chinese and really start to understand China from a variety of perspectives. So I think for me, the China component was really strong within my objectives. And I think the college environment really allowed me to prioritize gaining as many different perspectives as I could on that.
Awesome, thanks, Emily. Anyone else want to jump in on that question?
Yeah, for me, I think joining the Schwartzman program first is that I want to improve my English. So just like other scholars have mentioned, they want to learn Chinese better. And for me, as a local Chinese who have never studied abroad before, so I see this as a very good opportunity for me to improve my English skills. And second, what is the most important for me, I think, is to provide me with the opportunity to boost those kind of cultural understandings and exchange with our fellow scholars. I think it is really a nice time that you can study and also talk to people coming from over 30 countries, that they can share different perspectives with you about the global affairs and also about the Chinese perspectives on several very important issues. And I think for me, through those kind of small talks or dialogues or those classes, I get to know the world better, and also to see those kind of events happening in China. What are the perspectives from other scholars, what they think about those kind of issues in China? Thus help me to broaden my horizon and also help me better prepared for my future career.
Well said. Thank you. Appreciate those insights. Another question, which is a interesting way to think about looking back and thinking about your whole Schwartzman Scholars experience. What is something that surprised you about the program throughout your time as a Schwartzman Scholar? Give you a second to think on that one. Thank you. You look ready.
I think I am. I was surprised by how much I genuinely became friends with and wanted to become friends with almost everyone in the entire cohort. And I don't say that to mean that I was expecting a very mean cohort or anything like that, but I think often in a lot of environments that bring high achievers together, there can be some element of competition or tension that comes out at some point during the year. And I just simply did not have that experience. And it was probably the first educational environment that I'd been in where I did not have that experience at all, even one time. So surprised by just how much the genuine friendship came above everything else.
Thanks, Ankita. Anybody else want to jump in? What surprised you about your time as a Schwartzman Scholar? Emily.
I might just add on to, along very similar lines, my peers continue to surprise me on a daily basis. And that has, I think, been one of the real privileges of being part of the Schwartzman Scholars Program. Every conversation that I've been able to have in the dining hall, in classrooms, or now on Zoom has really challenged me in so many ways based on, my background or what I believe in. And to this day, I'm still learning really intricate understandings of cybersecurity or about proper dining etiquette in China, and so I am constantly surprised by my peers on a daily basis, and I think that's really my energizing component of the Schwartzman Scholars that I think is going to continue for a lifetime as well during the alumni experience.
Awesome. Well said. All right, so another question came in about deep dives. So they mentioned hearing that not only are there Schwartzman College sponsored deep dives, but there's also scholar organized deep dives. So anyone share a little bit more about those and if you had an experience with that this year?
Yeah, I can quickly start here. So
awesome.
Yeah, briefly, Emily mentioned all the deep dives that the college organizes. So I think this year we had 9 locations with different topics. So I went to Shenzhen, which is the technology center of China. So it was amazing that we went to a lot of companies, a lot of startups that are like the high level of technology in any field in artificial intelligence, machine learning, and everything else that comes with it. And that was really amazing to bond with 20 other scholars together during a whole week and have amazing experiences there. So Melanie was in my deep dive, and I guess people were in different ones. They can also talk about this, but also people can talk, but I went, for example, to the India deep dive. So I met with we were about 15, 18 scholars in India. And then we went to the Taj Mahal, to Mumbai, to Delhi, to amazing places in the country, experiencing it from the side of the scholars, from the side of a local, which is amazing. The experience is much better. You sort of know what you order in the menu, you don't get lost in the city. And the your hosts are the Schwartzman scholars. So they receive you in their homes, they introduce you to their parents, to their grandmas. And like one of good friends of mine called Shubo, like I stayed at his place for 2 nights, and his grandparents like hosted me like their grandson, and that was super amazing. So I guess the other ones can talk more about these opportunities.
Awesome. Thanks, Tiago.
I can also jump in. So during Chinese New Year, I participated in a deep dive that was also led by one of our fellow scholars to Cambodia. And it was such a privilege to be able to explore the country through Darren's eyes and to learn about Cambodia's relations with China. And one of my favorite moments on the program actually happened during this trip. So we visited the Chong'uk Memorial Site for the killing fields of the Khmer Rouge just outside Phnom Penh. And after the visit, I spent 3 uninterrupted hours in deep discussion with my fellow scholars and one of my closest friends, Daniel, in the program. And, you know, we both want to dedicate our work to public international law, but we come from very different backgrounds. Daniel comes from Singapore, has gone through military service and is a qualified lawyer, whereas I come from the nonprofit and humanitarian side. So I guess what this experience shows is that I think it really encapsulates student life really well as a Schwartzman scholar, because often during your year, you'll have the opportunity to see and experience profound cultural, historical, and political realities through traveling, through coursework and guest speakers. But at the same time, you're doing this alongside a group of talented scholars from all over the world who are really sharp and ready to challenge you and on your beliefs and your approaches and really spur you to grow both personally and professionally. And in doing so, they become some of your best friends. And so I think that's really, that duality is at the core for me of what the Schwartzman Scholar experience is and why, to me, it's so powerful and impactful on my life.
Awesome, well said. So another question came in about kind of the unique mix of students in our cohort between students who just graduated from undergrad and students who are young professionals. So our age range shows you that is a mix every year, which I think is one of the amazing strengths of each cohort. Your cohort and the incoming cohort, for example, followed that traditional kind of split of about 50-50, 50% coming in straight out of undergrad, 50% who are young professionals. So love to hear a couple of your thoughts on just the benefits of that for the scholar experience in terms of student life and getting to know your cohort and living life and learning together for the year.
I think maybe I can first start. As a student who have never worked before, I just after I graduated from a master program in Tsinghua University, I went to a Schwartzman College. I think for those people who just graduated from the university, they may be very familiar with the academic stuff. So like sitting in the classroom, listening to lecture, and also giving feedback. I think this kind of, and also they are more active in the class, I should say. And also, but for those people who have much working experience, they are more talented. Like when we are doing classes, they can share more insights into the jobs that they did before, and they can provide different perspectives from our students who usually study in the classroom but have no like social practices or working experience. I think this is a very good and nice mixture. And also for students like me, if I'm going to work in the future, I can often turn to those scholars for help to learn about a new industry, and they can provide a lot of insights into those jobs and provide you with very useful information and suggestions. And I think for those who had some working experience, they will really treasure this kind of experience living in the college and this kind of learning experience. So from this, I think they can learn from those kind of young people who are usually more energetic maybe, and also who can share more views about the current issues in the world, and also maybe something related to the classroom, and also our insights about those courses. I think this is really a good balance between those who have some working experience and those who just graduated from the universities.
Yeah. Oh, Wyatt, you're on mute. Okay.
Go for it.
Okay. Well, I think you put it really well, Joe. I would just add and say that basically any sector that you may want to work in or any education that you may want to pursue, there's probably at least one of your classmates that has already done it or is in the process of doing it, or at least something related. And that is what I think the beauty of the cohort spanning a few different ages is because you can like really just learn from your classmates more, not only professionally, but also personally. Obviously, people come to the college from different backgrounds and different family situations. And there were a couple of members of our cohorts that are married, one that actually had a child born while he was in Beijing. So I don't think there's any one specific type of person that like wouldn't be a good fit in the cohort. It's just obviously up to you to evaluate your own personal situation and make your choices accordingly. But I felt like the friendships and the learning went both directions across the entire cohort.
Awesome.
Yeah,
well said.
Can I just give a quick note
Please.
on the other side? So coming from more work experience, a young professional, maybe I would expect to get into the college and say like, okay, I can teach them some things, but they're just out of undergrad. What can they teach me? And it's so impressive how much these people only by the undergrad have done. So by doing a lot of internships or founding clubs or NGOs during their time at college, that's just amazing. And you can learn so much from them. Also in academics, they're much more sharp in everything. And they are super helpful in you when you have to do your assignments or capstones. So there's a lot of exchanges, and it's not because you have more or less professional experience that you can add more or less to the program. Everybody's is helping, and it's mutual support, which is really nice.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. And well, I'll ask one more question from our group. If we don't have time to answer your question, please follow up with us. We'd love to continue this conversation. But one more question that's come in is related to life and engagement with the larger Tsinghua community and how that works with Chinese language as well. So Tiago, I'd love to hear your thoughts, or Emily or Ankita as Chinese language learners, your thoughts on your experience using Chinese language, learning Chinese language, and engaging with the larger Tsinghua community.
Yeah, I'll quickly start. Tsinghua has a lot of clubs. So when at a week in the first month or second from the program, from the year, all clubs get together in the square, in the center of the campus, like advertising what they do. And they can be clubs, for example, of playing chess, of doing origamis, of going to play soccer, or going ski or scuba diving, the most different things you can imagine. And these clubs, it's a great gateway to get to know Chinese people. So during this week, I just got there, you get your WeChat, you go scanning a lot of QR codes, and then you join a lot of these groups. And the people are so willing to, they super like foreigners. So they're super happy when there's somebody there trying to practice their Chinese. They also want to practice their English with us. So it's super easy to get together with these people. And I think this is a great opportunity to just leave the college when you want to learn the language, because if you stay only inside Schwartzman College, you're going to be limited to English and a little bit of Chinese. So wanting to learn the language, you've got to go outside and explore the opportunities that Tsinghua provides to you.
Awesome. Well said. Ankita, anything, thoughts on your side?
Yeah, I would say it's difficult, but possible. So you kind of have a skewed sample group here, I'm realizing, because the 3 international students on this call, I think we were all people that made it a priority to learn Chinese. And not everyone does. If you don't plan to work in China, you don't have to take Chinese beyond your mandatory first module. But all 3 of us happened to be interested in it. So I took extra lessons, like in the evenings and stuff, like with a private tutoring company, and came in knowing, not exaggerating, truly only how to say hello in Chinese, and now test at roughly an HSK3. So I think if you really try, you can. Also in terms of clubs, that helps. I was in a Tsinghua a cappella club, which oddly enough sang in English, but rehearsed in Chinese. So I did attend several multi-hour rehearsals entirely in a language that I did not understand, but I mean, I made some friends at Tsinghua through it, and they kind of helped me translate where they could. And I think it helped me get a little bit better. So people are really happy to accept you into their clubs and their activities if you're willing to just be, slightly uncomfortable in the beginning and go for it.
Well said. Awesome. Couldn't agree more. I started studying Chinese 14 years ago, actually in Beijing as a college freshman, and one of the best academic and professional decisions I've ever made. So excited to see y'all's commitment to it, and also to see so much interest in our audience and in our attendees today. So Melanie, I'll turn it over to you.
Oh, great, thank you so much. And thanks again to all of our panelists for all of your insights and personal experience sharing. At the risk of us all getting nostalgic, since we're all dialing in from all over the world and we're all missing being in the college and missing dining with each other, well, we'll end with, I'll ask you to share, each of you, your favorite memory or your most impactful memory or experience from this year so far. And feel free to just jump in when you're ready to share.
Maybe I can kick us off. Melanie, you ask a very difficult question because it's really impossible to choose. There are so many, and your days at Schwartzman College are so packed. One thing I'll highlight is in early December, the college organized a winter hike for us on the Great Wall. And we got up really early that morning and we realized that it had snowed. And we weren't prepared for that. And I didn't have really a winter, I underestimated how cold Beijing was. I didn't really have a winter jacket. So I, threw on my my jacket that I had, which in retrospect is really an autumn jacket, and went to the Great Wall to hike. And we hiked on an unrestored section of the Great Wall with some guides. So you have to go with guides. And this section of the Great Wall was slightly broken. It wasn't completely restored. And we made our way through and we saw the Great Wall under snow, which was such a once in a lifetime opportunity. And it was great to see the camaraderie within scholars. Some of us didn't have appropriate clothing. Some people didn't really know how to hike, and it was blowing a gale and there was snow everywhere, but we made it through. And to this day, I think it's one of the craziest things I did while I was in the college in retrospect, and one of the moments that really gave me a wonderful experience with my classmates, and some pictures that I'm gonna hang on the wall for the rest of my life and look back at it.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same one that Emily said, so I'm gonna change mine. Yeah, this Great Wall hike was amazing. Like, we were supposed to do it in 3 hours, but because of the snow, I guess some people took up to 5 hours, and it's so cold coming from Brazil. I froze, like, I don't know, I still can feel my toes very well. But my favorite moment, taking this apart, I'm gonna say was when we participated in the choir competition of Tsinghua. So each of the colleges, each of the different schools that the whole university have, they prepared a choir presentation. So we would just sing to the whole community of Tsinghua. And well, I had never participated. I'm not a singer. I had never participated in an opera before or any choirs. And we had two scholars. One's Connor from Ireland and Shuanghao from China. And they both had previous experience with choirs, so they organized a group. Shuanghao was our conductor, and Connor, together with Ankita, the two scholars, they were our solists. So they're doing the solos, and we sang a Chinese song that's super beautiful, and it's from the Olympics of 2008, if I'm not wrong. And yeah, it was so beautiful, such an amazing moment. And like all the Tsinghua sing, all those international foreign students just starting to sing a song in Chinese, and everybody like, oh, it was so cool. And yeah, that's for sure one of my most memorable memories at the college.
Yeah, I think for me, I have two very impressive moments. The first one is our common room. Just as Akita has just introduced, we have 4 common rooms on one floor, and every common room we can have a lot of activities there. And the most impressive moment is when someone having his or her birthday party. So usually people will gather there, and we have birthday cake, we drink alcohol, we have different snacks, and also to have very close connection and dialogues with each other. It is really an amazing time when everyone will go to that common floor and give their birthday wishes to that one and sing the birthday song, and also people can make wishes during that time. It's really a nice time that happened in the common room. And also people will study in the common room, people will discuss about some academic studies there, and also it is really a nice time for us to chat, to celebrate, to study. Yeah, it's a mixture of everything, the common room. And the second one is that the grilled cheese night. So Melanie is here. It really makes me miss that night because the grilled cheese, the food is really delicious. I have never had that before, and Melanie always offered us lots of opportunities to cook by ourselves and also share the food with each other in Melanie's house. So I still remember in the grilled cheese night when we started to cut the bread and also put the butter on the bread and also make the tomato soup and also some desserts. It's really a nice time, and also with a cup of tea, and people can share what is happening and to catch up with other friends. Yeah, these are the two really favorite moments for me. Yeah, thank you, Melanie.
Yeah, as someone who has eaten far too many grilled cheeses in her life, I was truly honored to witness Joe's first bite of a grilled cheese. And I don't think I'll ever forget that. Yeah, so many good experiences, hard to pick. But one that I'll share about was the deep dive. So not the student-led deep dive, but the one the program actually organizes for you. This was, I think, the single week in the program that I learned the most about China. So I went on the deep dive to Baoji, which is a third-tier city in Shanxi province. So no shade to Baoji. I had a lovely time there, but it's simply not somewhere I would have gone if I hadn't gone there for a deep dive. Like, it's not a typical tourist destination, but we were studying China's poverty alleviation programs in the city and in the rural areas around it. And it was truly so eye-opening to go to villages, go inside Chinese villagers' homes with the aid of a translator, speak with them about how their like state-led social development has lifted them out of poverty. Really, really eye-opening and amazing, and just not the kind of learning experience that you could easily replicate on your own, especially if you're not a fluent Chinese speaker. So I absolutely appreciated that.
Great. Well, thank you all. This made me a little bit teary-eyed. I miss all of you. I miss cooking with you. I miss working out with you, and all of those amazing conversations. Like you've all said, every meal in the dining hall, you have an interesting conversation with interesting people. So I'm so appreciative that all of you came and shared of your experience. It's so nice to spend this hour with you and thinking and talking about your year in the program. It's unfortunately cut short this year, but it's always nice to catch up with y'all on Zoom. And Wyatt, I think that's all of our time, so I'll send it back over to you to finish up.
Thanks, Mel. Just want to echo your thanks and gratitude to our incredible Schwartzman scholars who joined us today. And I also want to thank you all for joining us as attendees. We are thrilled that you're interested in the Schwartzman Scholars Program and hope that you'll keep in touch with us. We have lots of upcoming additional opportunities to engage with the program, including additional featured spotlight series like today's webinar. We have virtual info sessions that'll give more of an admission-specific overview of the program as you think about the upcoming application and selection process. And please stay tuned to our website and social media handles for information on all of those upcoming webinars and ways to stay connected. I'll just say two quick deadlines as you think about the upcoming application cycle for the 6th cohort of Schwartzman Scholars. If you are a citizen of Chinese mainland, Hong Kong, Macau, or Taiwan, our deadline is coming up on May 20th. So you have less than a month to get everything together with interviews that will be in June virtually. And then if you are a US global applicant, our application is now open and it will close on September 22nd of 2020 with interviews in late October and early November. And both of those timelines are for August 2021 start at Schwartzman College. So thank you again for joining us. I know we all agree here today that this program's mission of gathering a group of leaders and building a network of leaders from around the world who are committed to working together, collaborating, and ultimately building mutual understanding and connectivity between China and the rest of the world is more important than ever before. And so we're thrilled to have you with us today and thrilled you're interested and hope that you'll keep in touch and consider applying to be a Schwartzman Scholar. Thank you again, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.